All right, this is the follow up, and we are following up today on not one but two live videos that I did last year in 2020. The first video was called Baduizm Live, and the second one featured the great Hubert Eaves the Fourth. My guest today on the follow up is none other but the mighty Poogie Bell, who was the drummer of Baduizm Live, and I am so honored to have him on the follow up today. Poogie Bell, thank you so much for making yourself available, and welcome to the follow up.
Oh, thank you, George. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, absolutely. Just to give you a little bit of analysis for those watching, for those listening, Baduizm Live was a live album that presented the material from Erykah Badu's first studio album in a live setting. Poogie Bell was the drummer, Hubert Eaves the fourth was the bass player, Keys Hurt, I believe, was
Yep. On the keys hurt.
the
Yep.
keyboard player, and there were three backup singers, Karen Bernard and Dambi, and I believe Keith Hertz,
Joyce.
Choice Hertz,
Yep.
Choice Hertz.
Hmm.
Uh, in my humble opinion, Baduizm Live is in the same category in terms of importance as Aretha Franklin Live at the Fillmore West,
Oh,
as
wow. Okay.
Donny Hathaway Live at the Bitter End,
Oh, you're
um,
very kind.
Curtis Mayfield Live at the Bitter End, Marvin
Ooh.
Gaye Live in Oakland in '71, I believe.
Yep.
It is
Yep.
one of the big albums that exist in my opinion, and I believe record sales and the influence of that album has shown that it you know is that album for a lot of people as well. So my question, or my first, to get this started, basically, we are talking about that album, but we're also talking about, we want to feature um, Poogie Bell's take on what it was to play with Hubert Eaves the Fourth, um, what that felt like, what it sounded like. So let's get started right away. Poogie, let me ask you the question: what was it like working with Hubert? What did you notice? Basically, I want you to take us back to the first time you met Hubert and the first time you guys played together.
Oh, wow.
And what
That's
what was it that you noticed right away?
I before Erica's uh gig. I had known Hubert for a long time.
Okay.
You know, and I knew his father as producer of D Train, and there's a record, in fact, um, by a group called the Force MDs. Me and another great bass player by the name of Victor Bailey
Mm.
produced a song on that record, and it was called "Touch and Go." It
Right.
was a title cut. So um, Hubert also had a song on that record. Um, so just through the streets of New York when I was a New Yorker, you know, I knew who he was, and we traveled in similar circles.
Right.
Um, the first time I ever saw him performing was with what was the name of that group? Lisa and Call Jam, but he was
Oh
playing
yeah.
the drums.
Oh, check that out. Okay.
Yeah, and so we actually didn't play. I'm trying to think, did we play before Erica? We might have done like one or two gigs before Erica's gig, but Erica was probably the longest stretch of time, period of time that I played with Hubert.
Mm.
Um, I guess the thing that will always stand out in my mind is the fact that being able to play with so much feeling, like every every note said something,
Right.
and well, the fact that he's a great drummer as well.
Mm.
Most people don't know that, but I mean, he played with Will Downing. He's played with a lot of people as a drummer. I think he started out as a drummer.
Oh wow.
Uh, you know, But a lot of times I would play something and it seemed like even think about playing something and he would be exactly there with me and then kind of look over, Hubert's a tall brother, and look over me at the drum stool, kind of give me a snide smile, like, oh, I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I
you
got you.
know,
I got you. You're right here. I'm right
yeah,
there
yeah,
with you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so it was for me it was like a walk in the park. It was very very easy to
Mm,
make music with him,
right.
and so that's probably the thing that stands out most in my mind. It was never a fuss. I think you as a bass player and music drummer, we have both been on gigs or have found ourselves in a situation where the person who you're supposed to be working with, one of the guys supposed to be working with everybody on stage, but one of the guys you're supposed to be working with the most, it's just a fight, an argument
Mm, yeah, yeah,
about who's going to play what and why.
right.
And but with Hubert, it was easy. It was just always a walk in the park.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally hear that. Do me a favor. You're blocking your mic just a little bit,
Oh, I'm
Eddie.
sorry. I'm sorry. My
no,
hoodie. My
no,
hoodie.
yeah, it's all good. I mean, it was,
Okay, you got
it
me.
was,
You
yeah,
got me.
yeah. You're still crystal clear.
Okay, my bad. My bad. My bad.
No worries. So, well, I mean, that kind of that explains a lot. I think the fact that what you just mentioned, that he has extensive background as a drummer,
Yeah.
probably contributed to the lockup that the two of you had.
Oh,
Um,
it definitely helped.
oh yeah, 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 no doubt. Does
Yeah.
because that lockup is unparalleled in my opinion. It, as I said, I do mean what I say. Like, that album is on par with all the other live albums that I just mentioned.
All right.
It's
Well, I'm gonna give you some insider information about that
sure.
record that the majority of the world does not know.
Okay.
All right. So I'm trying to remember where it was, but it was recorded at Sony at the time. Had a studio on, I don't know, 50 something off of 10th Avenue, 11th Avenue.
Right.
Anyway, it was a soundstage
Right.
situation that we recorded the studio. But the soundstage was next to actual recording studios, rooms.
Right.
So after we were done, uh, we went back to listen to what we did, and there was some boo boos.
Oh.
There was some boo boos, and at the time, you were locking up tape machines with code called SMPTE,
Right.
right? But I can't remember. I think Keys might have been acting as a producer, but long story short, they didn't run any SMPTE code,
Oh wow.
right?
Okay.
So the background singers kind of hit a couple of notes. Keys kind of hit a couple of notes. It was kind of peculiar. So anyway, they stayed,
Oh
right,
wow. Okay.
and literally recorded many of the keyboards and vocals over again.
Oh
So
wow.
the only thing that's honestly live on the record, now I'm messing this up for a lot of people, but the only thing that's live on the entire record is me and Hubert,
That's crazy.
because the only thing that they had to play to was me and Hubert.
That is crazy. That is
And
crazy.
I've
I mean,
had, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and it's about that record, because I still, like, we're doing this talk right now, and after all this time, I still have people who come up to me or know me from, all the years I spent with Marcus and blah blah blah, and I've done this
right.
and that, but they know me. A lot of people know me from that record, and I've had people literally, what's the word? Like treated like a science specimen.
Oh yeah.
So I've
Oh yeah.
had drummers come up and ask me, so your duration of your bass drum note, and I mean like all sorts of kind of stuff. I even had, like, I remember being on tour in Europe, and this guy who I'd never seen before, he came up to me and he said, I love the Erica live record, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
he said, but I can't remember what song, but he picked out a song and he said, at minute 250 or 212 for 4 bars, the tempo speeds up,
Yeah.
right? Then he said something like, "I'm so sorry." It's like, well, okay, but it's amazing to me, like, and I appreciate everything you said, though, but it's amazing to me that how many people, um that recording uh touched, and how many musicians
Mm-hmm.
paid such close attention, and piecemeal through every little thing, examining every little thing
Right.
on that record. You know what I mean? It was almost like, have you ever played a show at Berkeley School of Music?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Of course.
Okay, well, it's like it kind of feels like that to a lot of people. Nobody's like really listening to the music; they're all examining you like you're like a science project. You know what I mean?
I know I totally get that. I think that there is some there's some part of that. There is also, and I can only speak for myself. The first time I heard the album, I was on tour back in Europe.
Okay,
I'm originally from Vienna, Austria. I
okay,
moved to New York in '96, and I believe
okay.
the album came out right around that
Yeah, yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah,
96,
yeah.
97, right?
Right, right, yeah.
So I moved to New York and basically dropped my bags, said hello to a bunch of people, and had to go back to Europe to play a tour over there.
Uh huh.
So while I'm on tour over there, I believe it must have been the leader of the band, who happened to be a drummer,
Uh huh.
was like, check out this tape, and literally gave us a tape. Me and the keyboard player were sharing a car, gave
Uh
us a
huh.
tape or a CD.
Right.
Check this out. We're not gonna play the music on this album, but check it out. You need to listen to this, right? So the tape goes into the car stereo, and the two of us were just mesmerized. Okay, we were definitely taken by it. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say in terms of analytical thinking, but we were taken by the vibe of it. And I know for myself, I started analyzing it and writing out the lines and all of that a couple years after that, right? I
Okay.
mean, that's just how it presented itself to me.
Right.
Um, but I totally get the wish to understand exactly what's going on because it's so good. And having now lived in the States for 20 plus years,
Right.
um, having uh, experienced the, the tail end of the scene, of the music scene where Baduizm Live came out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here in Brooklyn, in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the one thing that kind of that perhaps speaks to the lasting power of the album and of the work that you guys did, that everybody did, because Erica is no slouch either.
Oh, no, no,
It's
no, no.
very very important to
Oh, yeah.
give credit where credit is due.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think what speaks to the staying power of that album is the fact that it was such it was how shall I put this? It was a picture of a time, a picture of a scene, right? A picture
Yeah.
of a representation of a particular scene that happened right here, right?
Huh.
That was incredibly current and contemporary at the time.
Yeah.
And as such, it went all over the world and just influenced everybody. There's one thing that this is a total side note, but I do want to bring that up because I have you here in front of me, and I would be totally amiss not to say this. Um, I did see you once play with Marcus Miller back in Austria,
Okay.
and at a jazz festival called Wiesen,
Okay.
Wiesen,
Okay.
and I have to tell you, I'm not much of a religious person. I do believe that I'm spiritually inclined, but I had in my life two experiences that were close to a religious experience. And that Marcus Miller concert with you on drums was one of them.
Wow.
There's no
Far
two
out.
that yeah, there's no two ways about that.
Wow.
That was a very, very deep, profound experience for me. Anyway, coming back to um coming
Well,
back
next time
to
I talk to him, I'm gonna make sure I
yeah.
mention that to
Listen, I've been trying to get him to do one of these follow-ups because I have featured Buddy Williams, who's a good friend of
Oh,
mine.
yeah.
Yeah, I featured Buddy Williams in 2 live videos,
Okay,
and
please tell him I said hi.
yeah, most definitely. And I tried to get Marcus on the follow-up. So
Right?
far I haven't heard back from him. I'm not surprised. So
Oh, it's that's yeah. He's he can have his leprechaun moments. It's hard to get him.
No, no, it's all good, all good. Listen, I'm glad he's doing what he's doing because that gives me motivation, that gives me inspiration, that keeps me, pushing.
Right, right,
Coming back to what I originally wanted to talk to you about, and that was Hubert Eaves.
right,
Um, I do believe that Hubert is one of those players who uh, whose style transcends the era of time that he played in or that he plays in, right? It's
right.
it's one of those he's one of those players who um yeah, I can only I mean comparing someone to somebody else is never a good idea, but if I were to compare him, I do compare him to a Jerry Jamont, right? I do
Yeah,
compare him to, um Willie Weeks who
yeah.
did
I was
the
just about to say that. Yep.
Donny Hathaway live album.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, I forgot the name of the bass player who did Curtis Mayfield live at the bitter end. But anyway, he's one
I
of
can't
those
remember.
players, in my opinion.
Right.
And generally speaking, what do you and you might have answered this already, but I do believe that it's important. It's important for me, and it's important for the audience. What do you, as a drummer, listen for in a bass player? What are attributes that you need to have there in order to make things work?
Mm, I like you know guys who are more interested in playing the music
Mm,
than playing their bass.
mm,
You
right.
know, you have some guys who are very simplistic players. Some guys are real busy players, but in both sets of players, you're always going to have people who care about the composition. You know, guys who play a lot of notes but know how to incorporate those notes in a way that it is helping to propel the music, helping making you feel good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's in general, and especially now at this stage. I just celebrated my 60th birthday, right?
Oh,
So
congratulations.
at thank you. At this stage of my life, I'm just trying to focus and work with not only bass players but just people who make you feel good and make want to make the music feel good. I've been on gigs, and this used to happen a lot, and unfortunately, with young guys in New York before I left New York. But
Right.
you would have guys who would be on the gig and literally playing like they're auditioning for another gig.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? And
Mm,
not really, being respectful to if it was an instrumentalist or a singer or just, stepping on people's toes,
mm,
just, that sort of thing. I think that every musician has a huge ego, and you have to have one in order to get up on a stage to perform, but it can't be your start of your motivation starting point.
Right.
You know,
Right.
your it should always be about, uh, for me anyway, the music, and making the other sure that the other people on the stage are comfortable and feel good, and you know, um, if you're playing, an instrumentalist, or if you're playing behind a singer, or if I mean, just talking about being a sideman, not being a leader.
Mm-hmm.
But if the singer is sometimes, for them, or the horn player or guitar, whatever they are,
Right.
they're like a half a mile away from the band. You know what I
Right.
mean? With their
Right.
back towards you. So they want to feel that somebody is back there, you know,
Paying attention.
truly, yes, truly supporting them. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that, uh, it's to get up on the stage for a lot of people, it's like going to war. It's like going to battle. You want to have people who you can depend upon, people who are going to be there.
Right.
So those are the type of qualities that I look at musicians, in general. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Um, I think that, because of YouTube and all the tutorials and all the things, there are a lot more, a greater preponderance of musicians than when I was coming up.
Mm.
But so many of them just learn. I go on YouTube, and it makes me cringe. It's like, hey, here's the lick of the week,
Oh
and
wow.
here's
Mm.
the so and so of that. This check out this chop, and da
Right.
da da. And for a lot of those guys, what they don't realize, when everything is said and done, you're learning stuff that will get you fired,
Mm. Oh wow.
oftentimes very quickly.
Mm.
And you're because you're building a house of cards.
Right.
There's no it's a living in a house is really beautiful with no foundation. It's going to fall down.
Right.
So in bass players, I like to work with guys who, regardless of skill set, technique, care about, if it's an F chord, playing F, not playing every inversion on the planet Earth, but just like play. If it's F major 7, play F.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Um, One of the arguments that Marcus would have with some of the some of the guys in the band back in the day, he would say, "Okay, look." Just say, "Look, when you guys solo, I turn into the bass player,
Right.
right? I play the bass part. I support you. Now, when I'm up here and I'm soloing, and I was in many different versions of that band, so I don't remember what band version he was talking to.
Right.
But when I'm up here, I need you guys to do the same thing for me, all
Right.
right?
Of course.
And so yeah, and if I find myself on a gig with a bass player who I know is not going to listen to me,
Oh
right?
wow. Yeah.
What I do is, I humble myself, and I say, okay, well, you want to lead the dance, fine, I will follow you,
Yeah.
because I know at the end of the day, if the music sounds good, um, that everyone wins. I can give you an example. Like, say you show up to the gig, it's a bass player you never worked with before. You're playing a ballad, right?
Mm.
So in a few bars, you can figure out what's going to happen. So I play on my bass drum. I go boom, boom, boom. The bass
Mm.
player goes boom, 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 right?
Mm.
And
Of
then I
course.
go, okay, fine. So the next bar, I go boom, boom, boom. The bass
Right.
player goes boom, boom, boom,
Right.
right? And then usually when that happens, you might do it one more bar, right? It
Right.
might be, but then you smile again, and then finally by the fourth bar, everybody either goes boom, 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 or boom, boom, boom,
Right.
and then you have a good evening.
Right.
But when you find yourself in that type of situation, and I go boom, 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 bass player goes boom, boom, boom. By the time we get to the fourth bar, the bass player is still going boom, boom, boom. I go, all right, well, That's what he thinks is right.
Right.
He doesn't agree with my choice.
Right.
I'll just go with him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, because the music is much bigger than I'll ever be.
Right. 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 No,
So
that's true.
I just like to work with guys who have just an understanding and a real love for music. I don't really care about um, the whole technical thing. Is the people who make music math. I'm not mad at them,
Right.
but I'm not trying to hang out with them. It's like we don't have anything in common.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that. The interesting thing that I always find, and for me, that Baduizm album and the lockup that you and Hubert have is a perfect example of that. That there is so much virtuosity in taking a step back and humbling
Well, the
yourself.
first, I don't mean to cut you off, but the first gig we did, there used to be a club in LA. It was called, I don't know, good proper LA name, like
Mm.
R&B Live or LA Night Live or
Right,
something like
right.
California, right? And we went to go play for, I don't know, it was an MTV function or something Hollywood,
Right.
right? And this was maybe our second or third live gig. So we were literally, because you're playing trio, so you have all this vast space,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when you're playing trio, you just have it say, "Oh, with all this space, I'll just fill it up with everything I can find."
Right.
Right? So we did, right? And I hope I never ever hear a recording of that gig, because I'm sure we sounded like a precursor to like the fusion gospel band. I mean, we were just playing notes everywhere, right? Just like notes that didn't have any meaning at all. And Erica, but it was only Erica's second gig, so nobody really knew what they were doing
Right.
at the time. When I first started working with Erica, I used to use this like brushy kind of thing on my hi hat. When we were, she was so new. When we were at rehearsal, she looked at my hi hat, right, and she said, "Well, what's that thing?" I said,
Mm.
"Oh, well, those are my hi hat symbols." And she said, "Well, what's that?" I said, "Well, on your drum machine, the thing that says hat and it goes tit, 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 tit." And she said, "Yeah." I said, "All right, well, that's what this is." And
Right.
then she looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm new, so I didn't know that, but it's so loud."
Oh
I went,
wow.
"Okay." So I took out this brush thing, right? And
Right.
and I hit the cymbal, right?
Right.
And I said, "How's that?" She said, "Oh, that's great." I said, "Cool." You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So there were, we went through a lot of different modes and a lot of different places before we found what y'all know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
Most
there was a
definitely.
lot. There was a lot of experimentation going on,
Mm.
and
There was one thing. Just sorry to interrupt you. There was
no, that's
just
fine. No,
one thing that I wanted to ask you, and that was and I forgot to ask Hubert at the time, but when you guys recorded the album, was it at the beginning or towards the end of a tour?
it was towards the end of that. I'm kind of plugging my phone in. I'm sorry, I know
Oh,
you
that's
lost this.
that.
Give me 1 second. Give me
Yeah,
one
yeah,
second.
yeah.
Plug
No worries, no
my
worries.
wife. My wife got me this new fancy case, so it's hard to. She got me an old
Li-
old man case. I don't know
Listen, you're
what you.
talking to someone who has bass player hands, okay?
Okay, I got plugged. Okay,
This is
so
I know the pain is real, okay?
for real.
Yeah.
That record was recorded towards the beginning of the end of it all.
Okay.
I think that, can't remember what was in the summertime when it was recorded. I think we might have gone out and done one more. The Smoke and Groove tour. We did it twice. Uh, I think that was like towards the beginning of the end. The last gig that that band did in that configuration, uh, Oprah Winfrey still had a television show.
Okay.
and we played. Her and some other celebrities have a hotel, I think in the Bahamas,
Oh
Bermuda,
wow.
someplace. And so we played a show outside at that hotel.
Right.
And that was like the last gig we did. So it was well into it. And we had played a lot of shows
Right. Right. Right.
by the
Right. Right.
time, I mean, the band was pretty much was on autopilot,
Yeah. 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 No, that's I mean,
you know.
in the best possible way.
Oh yeah. No.
This in the best possible way. The only reason why I was asking, I had one of these follow up videos with Branford Marsalis and talk,
Okay.
talking to him about Bring On the Night, the movie that he
Uh-huh.
did with Sting, right?
Right.
The movie and album that he recorded with Sting, right?
Right. Right.
And he hipped me up to the fact that I believe the album was recorded. Wait, I'm probably getting this wrong, but the album and the movie were not at the same time, right?
Right. Right.
So you hear one version of the music in the movie,
Right.
which is towards the beginning. That was it, towards the beginning of a tour, and then
Uh-huh.
the album was recorded at the end of that tour, right?
Right.
So where the band had become this, had morphed
Right.
into a real communal kind of way of speaking with each other and presenting the music. So that was really why I wanted to know, where was it in the timeline, so to speak. But what you just said makes a lot of sense. Like you guys had played already a lot together,
Oh man. Yeah.
and you still had a little more to go. So
Well,
it you
the
know
thing is, if sometimes if when you're on a gig for a long time, um, there's certain nights just call it in.
mm,
You know, I'm, I'm like a lot of musicians. I can say that I have done. I'm not proud of it. If hindsight is 2020.
right.
If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have.
Mm,
But you call it in. Erica's gig, I can honestly say that every time we got up on the stage to perform, and I mean the entire crew,
mm,
right? Eric, everybody, the sound guy, Gordon, everybody was on their p's and q's
mm,
because you felt like you were a part of something that was really unique.
right.
You know, it, you know, because the first uh, I got called by Keys to come down to the Keys called me one time. I was in a hotel room in London. He wanted me to was like, hey man, what you doing? I don't even know how you found me.
Mm,
And I said, well, hey man, I'm touring with Marcus right now. He said, oh man, I'm working with this new artist named D'Angelo. Got this record out, Brown Sugar. Want you to come
mm,
play? I said, oh man, I wish I could.
mm,
Right? He said, all right, well, this guy Kedar Massenberg, who's Erica's record company and producer or whatever,
right.
um, he has this other artist. I'll call you when that's happening. So lo and behold, Keys kept his word.
Mm,
And Keys calls me, and so I go down to SIR, and I'm listening to the music, and I'm like, no way, right? It's like here we have like music with a hip hop bottom, kind of jazzy on the top,
mm,
and a young lady who kind of sings reminiscent of Billie Holiday, but probably doesn't even know who Billie Holiday is.
mm,
And I'm thinking, all right, well, you know, we're going to do the showcase for the record company, Universal, the whole big boo around, right?
right. Right.
So, I'm playing this music and I'm having a blast, right? But I'm saying to myself, well, this ain't going to last longer than these rehearsals and the showcase. It's like there's no way this is going to fly,
Of course.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we go to it was a restaurant. She's passed on now, but we played at this place called B Smith's,
Oh yeah. Of
right?
course. Yeah.
And I remember even help putting up the big. They put up some big flyer or something. Me and Kedar put up this big flyer up on the wall.
Mm,
Anyway, so all Universal comes in. We play Rim Shot or one
right.
of those songs, right? And when we're done, The president of Universal gets up and goes, "Bravo, bravo," and he's clapping. So when the president of the record company gets up, the whole damn room gets up now, don't it? And I'm looking at these people clapping, and I'm saying, "Oh shit, really?
Something's
Right,
happening. Yeah.
right. What is happening here?" And then next thing I know, it two and a half years of being out on the road.
Mm.
So that and just the reaction of the people, just knew that it was something that was unique for its time, what she was doing, what she still does. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But
Yeah.
even the way look, even the way the band, the road manager for the Roots pointed this out. She said, "Man, you guys are like the Black Panthers or something when you come out on stage." It's like, what are you talking about? She said, "You don't realize what you're doing?" It's like, no. She said, "Well, you guys line up in formation,
Wow.
but we weren't even like
It
we
wasn't
just
you. It was not
no,
conscious. Yeah.
no. It was just like we did though.
Right.
After she told me that, I looked, I went, "Oh wow, she's right." I mean, it would go Keys, me, Hubert, and then the background singers, and we all marched out, and then we broke off at a certain point to sit down at our instruments or
Right.
pick up, or whatever.
Right.
So it was just we all felt it. I think I'll speak for myself, but it was a unique period of time.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
think, and never thought that record would that one performance, because to be honest with you, I mean, I have what do you remember those things? Many discs. I have
Oh
many
yeah.
discs of shows that I think are way way better than that record.
Check that out.
You know what I
Wow.
mean? But I'm
Wow.
happy that people love that record, and I'm rambling. So what do you want
No,
to talk
no, 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 no. This is all good. You're not. Don't feel like like I could listen to you all the time. Like this is really really good stuff. No, this is
about?
fantastic. Listen, I don't want to impose more on your time. I do appreciate you taking the
Oh
time
man,
to
it's my
talking to me
pleasure,
and
man.
talking to the audience and letting us in on this process and really giving us your perspective on what it meant to play with Hubert. I mean, obviously my group on Facebook it's called George's Bass Chat, so it's somewhat bass centric, right?
Right, right,
There's
right, right,
there's a lot of talk about bass. There's a lot of talk about everything,
right.
but I do appreciate you sharing your perspective on what it meant to play with someone of his stature.
Right.
There's one thing that one last thing that I wanted to ask you, and this is kind of goes to this sort of generational idea.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, um, who would be a bass player that you haven't played with so far that you would really appreciate playing with? Um,
Well, I gotta be, have had like people, drummer magazine, other people ask me that question.
mm,
I'm probably one of the most spoiled drummers on the planet Earth.
mm,
My uh, I started playing with Marcus when I was 14 or 15,
wow, yeah,
right? Uh, and that went off and on all throughout our lives. Me and Victor Bailey used to have shared several apartments.
right,
Uh, a great bass player who played with Herbie Hancock, who passed on, but his name was Wayne Brathwaite. He was a good
okay,
friend of mine.
right,
I got to play with Anthony Jackson. I got to
wow,
play with Will Lee.
yeah,
Got to play with Stanley Clark. Ron Carter's on my current record. He's like my stepdad.
wow,
Um, you know, Sekou Bunch.
yes, I know Sekou,
There's just like just so there's a guy who I work with in Europe a lot named uh, Uri Gridlock. I mean, just so many bass players. I got to play with that young boy that wears the funny clothes.
Mono Neon,
Yeah, I got to play with him,
yeah,
and he never takes his foot off that pedal. And uh, amazing bass player out of the Washington D.C. area named Dave Dyson.
Right.
Got to work with him. Got to work with uh, Big Skeeter when I'm playing with Maceo.
Oh wow.
I can't remember what's Skeet's first name. Rodney.
Rodney Skeet Curtis.
Yeah, Rodney. I always just call him Big Skeeter.
Right.
We did Maceo together. He's playing bass on my current record. Hubert's playing bass on my current record.
Oh
Marcus is
cool.
playing bass on my current record. Um, Great bass player from Connecticut named Carl Carter.
Oh yeah.
Uh, uh, I mean, I've just undoubtedly, I've just been spoiled,
Mm.
rotten. You know what I mean? It's a great bass player here in Pittsburgh by the name of Dwayne Dolphin.
Oh yeah.
Great jazz bassist. Um, you know, I don't. I guess if I had to pick one dude, two dudes that I wish I could have played with, one would be Larry Graham, and the other
Right.
would be Bootsy.
Wow. Okay.
That I never got a chance to play with. There's a brother in Philly. I just think he has a unique way of playing. His name is Jamaluddin.
Takuma.
Oh,
Jamaluddin Takuma.
yeah,
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
I would like to play with him. There's a young man in Detroit who has played bass and sang on my current record. His name is Brandon Rose. He's an amazing young bassist. I don't know. A lot of today's players and a lot of today's music, you don't really get a lot of variety anymore.
Okay.
You don't find a lot of people. I think that the world has shunned in a different kind of way. I mean, it always probably has shunned on it, but people who have their own idea and their own perspective and want to try to be an individual voice, those voices are now really beaten down. You know what I mean? And it's almost safer to do something that sounds like the next guy. So, I mean, as an example, hip hop. So, being a New Yorker and seeing the beginning of hip hop and looking at it where it is now, the worst thing you ever could have been in hip hop was to sound or be like someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now you have these mumble rappers and who are making a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
They all essentially sound like the same thing.
Yeah.
And there's no individual, there's no thought about even being an individual. So when I look at the young bass players and for young black musicians now, they've taken instruments away from public schools long time ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so young black and brown kids don't have a place to go to see an instrument, to feel an instrument.
Oh yeah.
Only place where they can do that is in church.
Right.
Right. So you end up now with a lot of musicians, and I'm not mad at them, and I'm happy they found some place to play.
Right.
Right. But you find a lot of them now, same thing, no individual. A lot of people play great.
Right.
But can't tell one bass player, one keyboard player from the other.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, like next time you sit down and you watch one of those gospel drummers, right? I want you to do something, and this is as an experiment, right? Because they're all over YouTube. All of them have a 10, a 12, a 13 tom, right? Usually have 3 toms in the front.
Right.
I can almost guarantee you that 10-inch tom on every drummer, no matter how many drummers you look at, will almost be precisely the same exact pitch.
Check that out. Okay.
Almost exactly the same. I mean, like it's scary.
Right. I'll check that out. Sure, for sure.
You know what I mean? So
It's something that
Um,
I would not have thought of, but yeah.
well, but the same thing. It's like think about the five string gospel player.
Right.
Look, and if he plays with the thumb thing, that thing, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Look at the position of where his hand is hitting the string.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is definitely, yeah. That's
Listen
noticeable.
to the EQ.
Mm.
You know what I
Mm.
mean? So it just seems like in the world we live in now, it's almost like a what's the word? A thing of pride to sound like something else as opposed to sounding like an individual.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so I'm hoping at some point in time that you know the thing that makes Mono Neon so special is the fact that he's just being himself.
Yeah.
Or the thing that makes Thundercat so special,
Yeah, yeah. I was just
but
gonna bring him up. Yeah, yeah.
he's just being himself. And then
Right.
that's what you like.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Right.
it's amazing how so much of that just in this generation just keeps flying over the head. Like, hey, what was that? What was that? What was
Right.
that?
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
you know?
Interesting. Now this is you know that's a big thing, like the focus on individuality versus um trying to fit in, you know. And
Trying
it's
to fit in. There you go.
there's sort of I have a hard I totally hear what you're saying. I really do. To a large degree, I totally agree with everything. I have a hard time finding sort of the root for that, whether it is, you know, the outside world basically telling these players, listen, unless you sound like this person, we are not going to pay attention to you, or whether it is an impetus that's coming from themselves, that they want to sound like somebody else and that they kind of giving up on their own individuality.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, we all started out sounding like somebody else, but at a certain point,
Right.
you take a beat away, you add a beat, you
Yeah.
you you change your feeling, you do this, and then eventually you find your own sound.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, but
For
it
sure.
doesn't seem like But I had older drummers tell me that.
Mm.
I had older musicians tell me that. You
Right.
know,
Right.
sometimes in a very threatening manner.
Hey, this
but you
yeah.
know,
Yeah,
but
been
you
there.
know, but you, yeah, but
Yeah.
you learn that it's important to find your own voice
Right.
because the world needs a new voice. I know a lot of great bass players, but the ones who are trying to do like to be Marcus or to be Anthony Jackson or to be whomever,
Right.
right? You're always just going to be second best, no matter how good you get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah. No, that's a big one right there. There's no doubt about that.
you know.
Well, listen, Poochie Bell, thank you so much for taking the
Yeah,
time.
George, shut me up, man, because I'm old. I'll just keep talking and shit. My mouth would
No, this
just
is
go rapper.
this. You, I I know how to talk to drummers. Believe me, I've talked I talk to Buddy Williams on a regular basis.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go. Yeah, there you go. Me
So,
and Buddy used to meet at a place on 96th Street and Broadway. They
right.
had one of the original Miss Pac-Man machines.
Oh, check
And
that
we
out.
would go in there after the gig and play Miss Pac-Man till kids were ready to go to school in the morning. And the kids would come in and want to play the Miss Pac-Man machine, and they would get mad at our old asses for staying on the machine with a huge handful of quarters. So there's something about Buddy Williams you didn't know.
that, I did not know that. Yes.
Yes, we did.
He's gonna, but once he sees this video and he watches like these videos, right?
Right.
I know for a fact because every time there's something that he agrees or disagrees with, I get the text like
Oh,
immediately.
there you go.
Yeah. Immediately, right? Believe me, I'm gonna get
Well, he
many
was there.
texts. Yeah.
He was there. He
Oh,
turned
yeah.
me on to the spot. It was like an old pizza parlor or something.
Oh
Had
yeah,
little
yeah.
two Miss Pac-Man machines out the front.
I don't doubt it. That sounds like Buddy. There's nobody on this planet who would do something like that. That's Buddy.
Buddy.
There's no doubt about that. Well, listen. Once again, Poochie Bell, thank you so much for taking your
Thank you,
time
George.
today. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. I think the audience
My pleasure.
appreciates it as well. Please do everything you can to stay safe out there. Stay
Oh man, same
sane.
right back at you.
Stay sane. It's trying times, no doubt. Wear
Okay.
a mask, get the
Yeah.
vaccination, do whatever you need to do to,
Yes, sir.
take care of yourself and your family.
Yes,
Because we
sir.
certainly need more of Poochie Bell in our lives.
Oh,
And
God bless you, man. God bless you.
that's I do mean that. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking the time today.
No problem, George. Happy to do it.
All right, take care now.
All right, man. Peace.